Have you ever wanted to overwinter your tomato plants but just wasn't sure if it was feasible? Well, stick around. We're going to take a look at what we can do about that. All right, so I'm fixing to pull down the vines that I cut loose from that our wild child tomato plant that we pulled out earlier. And of course, there's going to be tomatoes dropping back on the floor like crazy off of that. But I'm going to go ahead. I think I'm going to go ahead and just do some cuttings. So, I mean, it's my weakness. I don't know. So anyhow, so let's see what happens with that. All right, I'm just gonna kind of pull them, lay them across here so I get them pulled out. Tomatoes flying everywhere. Now I'm stepping on tomatoes like crazy, so I'm gonna go ahead and sweep them tomatoes back up because chickens will eat those, you know. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those swept back up, and then we're gonna deal with these cuttings here. Trying to figure out a place I can do these cuttings. Want to try to do it to where you guys can see. All right, so I've got this pot. It's actually like a kitty litter pan that I've used for cuttings. Oh, you can't see it. That did cuttings last year in it. So it's got some sand in there. I'm gonna add some more sand. I didn't steal this from the kids' place, Ann. No, I did not. This is one of my tools. This either, I didn't take that. This did not come out of the kids' sandbox. It's a lie, don't believe it. Oh my goodness. Or this one either. Evidence is building against me, isn't it? All right. All right, that's good enough. So I've got this little flat. So this is a perfect way to do stuff like this, where at the end of the time when they've rooted, you can like dump the whole thing out and like separate the roots all out. Man, it works really good. So the question is, where am I going to put it? Because my propagation frame is full. And I don't want it in the greenhouse because it'd be too much sunlight, and I can't have sunlight on my cuttings. So what I have to do, although I did do some cuttings in here, but I think what I'm going to do is put them out underneath the shade tree over there at the other end of the greenhouse. That'll keep them shaded good enough, and I think the humidity in the air is going to be good enough for tomatoes. So anyhow, just enough of my just rambling here. We get busy. All right, so let me show you. First, let me find my, oh, there they are. Snake. Anyhow, so let me show you, still stepping on tomatoes, my gosh. And I don't know what kind of good quality material we've got to work with, but when you do cuttings of tomatoes is you look for what, I don't know, a lot of people will call them like an armpit or whatever, but it's a sucker. So this used to have a branch. Let me show you one. Okay, here's a good example right here. So this is a sucker, right? Let me show you there. That's a sucker right there. There's a leaf. Well, it's actually, this whole thing is considered a leaf. You can't, so that leaf you can't propagate. The sucker you can. Now this is an awful tiny sucker, but so I don't know, I may not end up having a whole lot to work with off of here, but I'm going to take that sucker there, just kind of break it right off of there, lay that over there. So let me kind of just basically strip this whole thing of, so that's a leaf, 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 that is a fruiting, it's a fruit actually, a tomato on there. There, that's a leaf. Okay, so here's a leaf with a sucker about to sprout. So you see that right there? That's your sucker, and that is what would eventually come into being something that you could propagate, but it's too small. Here's another one right there on the other side. So I got one out of this whole little branch here. That's the only viable material that I got to make cuttings. And so let me just show you real quick. Let me toss that aside and I'll pick it up later. I'm getting sand all over everything. So what I'm going to do, you see it's already starting to wilt, right? I'm going to go ahead and clip that back there. I'm going to just leave, I don't know how well you can see, I'll try to do it up here. I'm going to cut most of that leaf off. And this one here, I'm going to cut most of it off, because you could see how it was wilting already. It's only been like an hour or something since I just cut this from the mother plant. So yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, it leaves a couple little leaves for it to photosynthesize, and so I'll stick that down in there. But first I got to go get a blade to make some slots. Hold on. Be right back. Okay, so I've showed you before, unless you haven't seen any of my videos, I usually, when I'm doing cuttings in my sand, I'll take a blade. This is just a drywall knife. I usually use a smaller one, but this is what I found. So anyhow, I'm make some cuts in that sand. It's kind of like, instead of using a dibbler for each little spot, you could use I could take and, let me just show you. Oh, because I always have a pencil. So I could take a pencil and poke a 1,000 holes, whatever, like that, and then stick that in that hole. So this blade basically just keeps them lined up in a straight row, and I don't have to do a pencil dibble every inch or whatever. So anyhow, let me hide them holes. So that's what that's about. Go ahead and, you see that? Well, let me do it over do it over here where you can stick it. So I'm just going to stick that down, just pack it in just a little bit, and that's one cutting. So I'm just going to go ahead real quick and I'll maybe grab a couple more branches and show you what I'm looking for, so you can know what to look for. You probably already know, but okay, so I've got it upside down. This is just easier to hold on that way. So okay, you can see, well, you know what, let me flip it up so you just can, so this is the top of the plant. You see I've got fruiting, what do they call them? Fruiting spurs or fruiting, well, it's fruiting branches. Anyhow, let me just break that off because that'll go to the chickens. Get that out of there. It makes it, oh my gosh. Okay. So from the top, looking at the top, you can see so way at the top there, right there, is about a sucker, and that's obviously too small. But next one down, that's a sucker right there. You can see, people call them like the armpit or whatever, but it seems weird to me. But anyhow, that's a sucker right there. And that's what we want. That's what we're looking for doing our cutting. So I'm going to break that off, just lay it aside, keep on going down. The next one, there's a sucker about to form there as well. We can't use that. Another one there, can't use that. Okay, so now here, look at this branch here, and then this sucker. That is a sucker right there. So I'm going to break that off and lay that aside. Look, that's a pretty big, that's a whole new plant right there. So anyhow, I'll stick that aside. Keep on going down. Another sucker growing but too small. Same thing here, leaf. Okay, now here's a sucker as well, but man, you see how wilty that is? I don't know, I'm gonna try it, we'll see. All right, so now let me take the other, see, because this was a 2-branch thing. So I've already dealt with this side. Now let's look at this side. So yeah, we got nothing really up here. Sucker about to grow there, sucker there, but too small. Okay, so here's the next actual sucker. Whoops, you couldn't see that. Right here, and that's too small. And then that's so that's it. That's all I got out of this branch. That's it. So let me toss that aside. All right. Whoop, just dropped a bunch of tomatoes. I'll be stepping on them. Okay, so you can see up there, just stuff broken. Sucker there, too small. Sucker here, because that's the leaf. I call it a leaf branch because it's like, to me, that's a leaf. That's a leaf, that's a leaf, but it's not. This whole thing, branches, is considered a leaf. So anyhow, there's a sucker right there in the middle of that. So I'm gonna break that off, lay that aside to work with. Then go on down to the next one. That's your sucker there. It's too small. A fruiting stem or whatever they call that. All right, so now down here, another leaf and then a sucker. So I'm gonna take that sucker. That's big enough to use. And on down, fruit, a leaf, and a sucker. So there's that sucker. I'm going to take that sucker, lay that over there, and then that's all I got. So toss that one. So let me see here. Just break this, do this separately. So what do we got here? See if we got anything good here. They've been separated for, you can see how wilty they're getting already, right? Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's why when you're doing your cuttings, you always want to do them as quickly as you can, or at least dump them, throw them in a bucket of water or something, which I did not do. So So here we go. We got a sucker there. It's too small. Leaf there, leaf there, leaf there. This whole thing actually is a sucker out of there. Now let me see. Let me break that sucker off and see if that's worth. You know what? Okay, so this whole thing is way too big to do as a cutting in this little thing. So what I'm going to do, since this is a sucker that I'll just clip that little bit off. Whoops. What I'll do is I'm just going to cut all of this off and just leave that. So that there, that's going to be my cutting. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and stick that in there. All right. This is getting redundant, I know. So, but anyhow, you can see the sucker there above the leaf, too small. The fruit it's already gone, of course. Another leaf. And then down here is a leaf sticking out, and then the sucker right here. Now that sucker's usable, so let me break that off. So there we go. All right, so that's it. Pretty much the rest of it down there. You got a little sucker right there that it's too small. So yeah, that's it on that one. Okay. See what we got. And of course, a lot of these. All right, so now here's one right there towards the top. Man, that is so borderline. I don't know if that would make it or not, but you know what? I know for sure it will not grow if I just toss it away. So we'll give it a shot. Because sometimes you think the ones that are the best, they end up not making it anyhow. So increase your odds by just sticking things that you're not even sure if it'll grow. So that's the same thing there. It's kind of small, but we'll give it a shot and trim them leaves back. There we go. All right, here we go. Try to get it to where I can show you. So here's a leaf. You can see how that sucker is coming up out of there, and that's a pretty good sized sucker. So break that off, toss the rest away, set that over there. Okay, so I just pulled this whole branch is a sucker. So I just pulled it off of that. So I'm going to take and just kind of trim real quick, show you. I just trimmed the rest of the top off of that. And let me see this here. I'm just going to clip that whole thing off. Here I'm going to clip most of that leaf off. And up here you can see, maybe you can see, that's a sucker coming out there. So I'm going to clip this whole entire leaf off of there. And then this plant will grow out of this joint there and that joint there, and then it'll grow out. So, and in fact, I'm gonna go ahead and clip it down to that node there, break that sucker off, and then that's where it'll root from. Well, anywhere, tomatoes will root anywhere you stick them, anywhere close to the ground, even above ground they'll start rooting. They'll reach down for the ground. So I already got that one done, so I'm gonna stick that one in there. All right. So this one's just like that other one. Let me show you how that looked. It's the same thing as that last one. So you can see this is the main, main branch. Well, none of these are the main branch. These are all branches off the branch. So that's your leaf branch or whatever. This is the sucker. So let me just take that sucker off of there. and show you. So now that's the leaf. I'll disconnect that. And what I'm going to end up doing, you know what, I'm going to cut the bottom off of that up to this node right here. So that's, and then see here, that's actually a sucker off of that will grow. I'm going to cut that leaf, cut the top off of that, and then let me see here. Let me go right above that node there, and that'll have several different places that it can grow from. That's pretty good cutting right there. Stick that in there. In case you're wondering that these things, by sticking them so close, will get all tangled up and you'll never separate them. Tomatoes separate so easy. In fact, when I plant my seeds, a lot of times I'll sprinkle packet of seeds in like a 7-inch wide pot or something like that, and then when they get up big enough, once they get their true leaves and start getting healthy, you can take and dump that medium out, dump the whole thing out, and just kind of roll it around and separate, and just pull. The plants just come apart so easy. Tomato plants, not all plants, tomato plants. All right, let's look at this one here. Yeah, that's got nothing. That whole thing's got nothing. All right, let's look at this one. We got a little sucker right there, too small. A leaf, fruit, leaf, sucker that's too small. But you know what? I can take, let me just show you. See, even though, so this whole branch is a sucker in itself. So I'm gonna clip that down below that node there, and then what you want to do is take and break that leaf off there, and then that sucker, break that off, and then what will happen, I'm going to go ahead and, so I'm going to use this whole thing as a sucker. So let me cut this off here, toss that away. That fruit, we'll toss it away, toss that for the chickens. All right, so we got a sucker here and then a place for a sucker here. So what we'll do is we'll leave just like a leaf there on that, and we'll cut this back to there, and this sucker will cut quite a bit of that off, and that's a cutting. So stick that in there. Okay, so that's all gone through. So let me quickly put you down here and show you a little bit of me prepping the rest of these. All right, so I got them just laying here. I'm going to take my blade and make another line, draw a line in the sand. In fact, let me do another one while I'm at it. All right, so what I started doing is these ones that I had prepped, and I just kind of, because I didn't have my line in the sand, I just laid them, stuck them over there at the end. So let me go ahead and quickly set these in the spot where they go. Kind of pack them in a little bit, you know. All right, so now you'll sort through these and kind of trim them up how we want. So this part here that drove down into the thing, you know what? It might have some rooting ability on that, so I'm going to leave it. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of cut back and leave some. So that's fruit there. We get rid of the fruiting branches because they're useless now. Save that, and cut that. I'm just going to cut that right there. All right, so I'm going to leave that little bit there on there because I don't know, it can't hurt anything. Other than it's a little hard to stick them when they have that. So just stick that in there. Kind of shove that under the ground. Maybe it'll, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Maybe it'll root, maybe it won't. Except I just made a big old mess in my line. All right, so here's the next one. And I'm going to go ahead and just cut back quite a bit of stuff. Whoops. Since I messed up my line, I'm going to have to get the pencil out and kind of help myself. Let me just kind of go ahead and follow that line and make a few holes for the next one. All right. So cut most of that leaf off, that, and that. I'm going to go ahead and trim that off. There we go. All right, so there you have it. Let me count real quick. You know what? Let me have you help me count. All right, so yeah, we got, man, it's hard to even see them. Got okay, so we got 45 cuttings out of that leftover cut off mess. And can you imagine how many cuttings we could have got if we would have cut up that whole tomato plant? But anyhow, we just took the we just took the pieces that were left over on the wall inside the greenhouse and cut those up, and we got 45. So we're going to end up seeing how those do. So and I'm sure they'll grow because I've done cuttings of tomatoes before. So there you go. I was able to manage to get my thumb brown today, so it's always a good day when you get your thumbs dirty and get your hands in the dirt. So anyhow, God bless you. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I will catch you on the south side.